Hello, folks. Welcome to Unwrap Live 2025. Hopefully, you can all see and hear me clearly. I've got this chat window open, so please do let me know if you can, if I'm coming through nice and clear. And if I am, we can begin because we've got a full day of work ahead of us. So I hope you're ready. There's lots to get through, and we'll see how it goes. That's a yes so far. It looks like 9 by 9 is H.A. Turner. Great. Okay, I'm liking that very much. So, for folks who aren't fully up to speed already, the goal of today is Apple Intelligence. We're spending the whole day today working through various aspects of Apple Intelligence, which is a new collection of APIs designed to unlock various artificial intelligence capabilities in our applications. Now, from an end user perspective, if you mention AI to someone, in the street, whatever, they're almost certainly going to think about generative AI, which is, making text or creating pictures or whatever. That's the way they'll think about it, and that's normal. Oh, a Detroit person, hey, you'll like my hoodie. You'll like my hoodie very much. I'm dressed for the Detroit occasion. Anyway, sorry, Detroit tangent. You'll ask folks, and they'll say, generative stuff is the key here. And that's normal, and Apple has shipped APIs for that too, and we'll look at it later on. But really, at the core of Apple Intelligence is a whole range of capabilities that allows the OS, iOS, macOS, and whatever, to get much deeper access to what's going on inside our apps. And I think really this is one of those only Apple can do this features of Apple Intelligence, because by exposing the internals of our apps to iOS, we're allowing our apps to fit into a huge range of possible workflows. Users could ask Siri questions about what's on the screen right now. They could read a value from our app using a shortcut and send that value to another app to be used, for example, or perhaps to several other apps, depending on how they want to make their shortcuts. They could take a small part of our app's functionality and add it to their home screen or their control center or widget or to their lock screen. They could look for things inside our app using Spotlight. They could trigger things using the iPhone action button, for example, or even the Pencil Pro squeeze gesture works. They're all available to us through these intense systems. And they're honestly just some of the examples, because it's a lot. It's very widespread. And what's more, it's also evolving very quickly. Very, very quickly. It's hard to keep up, in fact. The reason this event's taking place in March and not January like the last 2 years is because it's changing so quickly. I wanted to push it back as far as I could before Dub starts getting close, because I knew it would take a long time to get here. And interestingly, although a lot of it was announced back at Dub 24 in June last year, a fair chunk of it has actually still yet to ship as developer APIs. And the parts we do have aren't necessarily fully baked yet, let's put it that way. However, what we can say for sure is that Apple Intelligence is absolutely the direction of travel for app development on Apple's platforms. It's going to become the focus of Apple's own work for some years, I believe, as they evolve what it can do. And then I think users will start expecting it in the apps we build. They'll start wanting it. Now, as with previous Unwrap live events, today is a workshop. This means I expect you to do some work at some point in the day, try things out, noodle around, experiment with APIs yourself, rather than just listening to me talk and talk and talk. And obviously there's lots of me talking, because I'm explaining a lot of stuff here. It's a busy day. But at some point to say, hey, it's now time for you to code and noodle around and try things out. Give it a try. Obviously, I'm here to answer questions for you. And the format we're going to follow, I think, is fairly simple. I will walk you through some sample code for a particular feature, then give you some time to extend that same concept further. Try it yourself. And exactly what you do each time will be down to you. Exactly how the end result looks like will be completely flexible, which is what makes these workshops so fun. What you make and what someone else makes and what the third person makes will be completely different, and that's okay. It's part of the fun, experimenting and trying things out and breaking things and asking questions and noodling around. That's how we learn, right? Critically, before we start, to follow along, at the very least, you must have the Xcode 16.3 beta. That's the latest version available right now, which is what, March the 8th, 2025. Xcode 16.3 beta 2. That's what we're using for the entire session today. I'm not generally a fan of doing important work on beta software, but Apple Intelligence really is evolving as quickly as I said. There are new features even in iOS 18.4, so it's important to try and stay up to date. Otherwise, you'll be a version behind or an API behind, whatever. It's changing very, very rapidly. So Xcode 16.3 ships with the iOS 16.4 beta simulator, which is not at all confusing, which can get you a lot of the way through this workshop. Now, I'm saying a lot of the way because there's a catch. Quite a few Apple Intelligence features aren't available in the simulator, including fairly large things like the whole image playground framework just doesn't work on the simulator. It requires an actual device. So to have that, you have an actual iPhone or an iPad to use these features here. And I've tried to structure the day through as much as we possibly can without going near a device. So it's literally all simulator as much as we can, and then find device time. So make it clear to you when it's time to use a real device if you have one. And again, there's quite an API mismatch. I think Playgrounds is 0.2 for some things, 0.4 for other things. The text stuff's for 0.1. It's kind of all over the place, but if you have a device on 18.3, you'll get most of the way through the device stuff. A couple of small things require 18.4, but it's fairly small. Anyway, like I said, the goal, I'll walk you through a whole bunch of code. Lots of sample code, explanation, discussion, Q&A. That's what the chat's here for. That's why I come along live. And then you'll go ahead and noodle around by yourself with your own example code. To do that, I've built a very small starter project for you called Dreamcatcher. It's an app where you can log the dreams you have, which I'm sure are very exciting. And really, this app is just a test harness for showing off various features of Apple Intelligence. And I would strongly encourage you to make it do something else. Like whatever interests you, just change the app ahead of time, configure it around to be whatever you care about. You know, make an app called iHustle to track your side hustles you have. I mean, you think you can make a business selling party hats for dogs or umbrellas for bicyclists? I don't know. That's where you can track them all on your app iHustle. Or maybe you want to build an app to track all your other app ideas, or an app to track what you're eating and how it affects your mood, or an app to track migraines along with triggers or whatever. As long as it's something roughly in the same vein as our dream tracker, tracking things that happen in your life, you'll be fine. But I would encourage you, just change the code to be something you care about as you progress. You'll enjoy the workshop way, way more than just follow along verbatim with my code. You'll learn much more by experimenting. Anyway, I'm going to paste the URL, or type the URL, sorry, into the chat window here so you can download it. If you want to follow along later on, just scroll down and click the link, much easier. It is https://hws.dev/dreamcatcher.zip. That is our URL. Go and grab that zip file. And again, this is the project we'll be editing as we go. So please do follow along with me in Dreamcatcher, or even better, rebrand it. Make it, iHustle or Migraine Tracker, something you actually care about because you'll enjoy it much, much more. So I have already downloaded this project into my desktop, hopefully. There it is, Dreamcatcher. So I will extract that now and open it in the right version of Xcode, not the stable version, the beta version. And we'll see how it goes. Yes, it's an internet project. I know it's safe. Trust me. And so we're going to get our little project. Now, there's not a lot in this, but I've tried to make it fairly realistic. So we have some real things to work with. I want to walk through just briefly. I've made a few very specific choices. So I'll just walk through what it's doing and why. The basic structure is it's a Swift data wrap. So it's using Swift data already. There is this model class over here to store a single dream. I've given each dream inside here a very specific unique identifier, which will make dreams easier to find later on. Then outside of that thing, we have our content view and our dream list. These two views here, they show our dreams somehow. Content view is the sort of core UI of a navigation stack and searchable and titles and toolbars and stuff. And then dream list is a separated out list here so that we can actually receive a filter in our search text right here and recreate our query dynamically. It's still a very annoying workaround in Swift Data, but it's how Swift Data currently works to handle filtering. That's what we have here. And so when it comes to editing our dreams or creating new dreams, there's a dream editor view here. And this presents a fairly simple form for adjusting some values about your dream based on things I made up. So, describe your dream. What's it like here? And then, was it a really intense dream? Or when was the dream? Or whatever. Not a lot in here, really, but it's enough to track some basic, interesting information we can put into our Apple Intelligence code later on. Behind the scenes, there's also this data controller class, which is a trivial external object right now to access data programmatically. What is the path we're looking at and what is our search text? That's what it does right now. And this might seem almost pointless and is basically pointless at this point, but it's critical for using Apple Intelligence properly, as you'll see. So this class becomes more important. We'll fill it out as we go, adding more things here. Finally, in our Dreamcatcher abstract here, we have our data controller being made once for our whole app, and then place it into the environment, place it into the content view here. And then we add a model container for our Dream class at the end. So our UI is configured for Swift Data. That is the entire app. Now, the only real large chunk of code in here is the sample data in our content view. That's down here. Add samples. It just adds 5 example dreams to Swift Data and saves it at the end. So we have something to work with without having to go through and type things again and again and again. That is our starting point. Not complex. Again, I would highly recommend picking literally any other theme you care about. Track the amazing, expensive guitars you buy. Track the knitting needles and threads you like. I don't know. Something you care about in your life. Bicycle trips. Whatever. Something you care about. Make this your app. Otherwise, just dreams are just quite dull. Anyway, I'm going to run it back so you can see it running. It's, again, not a complex app. So let's Command-R and run it back in the iPhone 16 Pro simulator. Oh, the pen collection! Yes! Epic. Do that. That's a good idea. I am sadly a pen peon. I like not cheap pens, but I like the Cross brand of pens. The sort of mid-range, not pen snob, not pen pleb. Somewhere in between. Like a pen middle class. Anyway, press add samples here, and you should see your 5 sample dreams slide in. And you can go ahead and select, spaghetti, rain, or whatever, and adjust its intensity or whatever you want to. So that is our sample app, at least my sample app. Yours will be a pen collection or something else more interesting, perhaps. Okay, let's get into some coding. We're going to build up increasingly the Swift concurrency collection. Oh my god. I've said it before a few times, by the way, but I'm almost at the point where I'm willing to put money almost on this. I really feel like Xcode 17 might default to main actor everywhere for new projects. That would be my absolute dream come true. So there's no more sendability horror for new starter projects. And you kind of step up from there to, give me some concurrency, give me full concurrency or whatever. I think that's what I suspect is going to happen. We'll find out, of course, but I suspect what will happen. We'll see. I'm not going to put money at this yet, but that's my gut instinct, of course. Yeah, unfinished Swift projects, they're a great idea. Side projects, yeah, track side projects. Money-making potential, whatever, I don't know, it's like that. There's lots of those ideas there, and of course, we'll have a few of those, let's face it, right? We're not bored. David asks, will it be available as recording to watch later on? Yes, This will be on Hacking with Swift Plus to watch the replay fairly soon. And if you have bought a separate ticket on Taito, you'll get the videos to download there as well. Titanic Kiwi, yeah, exactly. You could choose something like that, but make it something fun you actually care about. I mean, honestly, the cars you'd like to buy when you're a squillionaire, I don't know, something you actually care about is obviously much more fun. Anyway, our goal is to build up more and more increasingly complex features over time. But to start with, we're going to go nice and simple. Nice and simple. How can we find out how many dreams we've logged recently? And this is the simplest query we can make. How many recent dreams have we had? But as you'll see, it allows us to focus on getting the foundations right. What we're describing here is an action. How do we find some information? And actions are called, in Apple land, intents. There's a whole framework for them called app intents. And it's not new. Apple launched this framework back in iOS 16, so ancient now. But even that built on earlier work from SiriKit back in iOS 10. And both these technologies, SiriKit and app intents, they sit at the very core of the way Apple Intelligence works. But as we'll see, it fits together beautifully. They've done a really good job with this stuff. More importantly, while Apple's advice before, 9 months ago, was just to make the most important parts of your app into intents. At WWDC 24, just last year, 7 months ago now, whatever it is, their advice changed really dramatically. So much so I took a picture of it when I saw it on the video. This is their new advice. Anything your app does should be an app intent. That was the screen from this thing. That's a big white screen with some black text. They mean business on this one, okay? They're being very, very clear now. We're not just doing one thing, two things, three things. Anything your app does should be an intent. Apple really are not playing around here. They mean business and making these things work properly. Now, there are quite a few varieties of app intents out there, each of which ultimately do the same thing. Let's take a small part of your app, one little bit of functionality, and make it available outside your app somehow for reuse, remixing, shortcutting, whatever you want to. That's down to the system. We expose it, it gets used by Apple in their internal logic magically in the future. So again, for now, I'm going to start simple. If you've never used app intents before, don't worry. We'll start from the very, very beginning and work our way up so everyone can follow along, hopefully. To get started, in our Dreamcatcher project or side project Swift thing or pen collection, whatever, something like that here, we'll make something to count recent things we have logged. Recent dreams, recent pens bought, recent cars wish we own, whatever. Recent things here. So I'll call mine to count recent dreams intent. So I'll press Command N in Xcode and choose Swift file. And then inside here, I'll call this thing count recent dreams intent, or whatever matches your particular theme. And by the way, as we're working our way through, I will ask you for screenshots of what you're making so you can share your ideas and share your work so far. So surprise me with your interesting things. Count recent dogs you've met in the street recently that you love. Whatever. I don't mind. Count recent dreams intent for me. And I'll press create. Now for this to work, we need two imports here. One is for app intents. So we have all the new app intents functionality. And one for Swift data. So we can issue queries from here. So I'll say up here, we have import app intents and then import Swift data, like that. Now, all intents with this framework must inherit from a core protocol called app intent, either directly or indirectly from a sub-protocol. So we can start with that. We can say we have a new struct here called count recent dreams intent, and it will conform to app intent, like so. Now, in order for this code to build, we've got to add two things to our code. First, we've got to give it a title for our intent, which iOS can display if it needs to. then a perform method that will trigger the action code. Okay, run your intent now. What should happen? For now, we can fill in just enough for this code to build. We'll say here, static let title is a localized string resource. It's even filling in for me. Tab, count recent dreams is fine, or recent dream count, whatever. Recent dream count probably works better. Yeah. There we go. That's good enough for me. And then for our perform method, like that's, no, I want code completion, please. Func perform. It's just giving me the autocomplete. I want the regular complete. Now, what's this nonsense? Mac Catalyst? Grr. Anyway, that's not helpful, Xcode. Give me the regular thing. Let me turn off that junk predictive nonsense thing. Go away. Not helping. Yeah, Apple's AI. Well, coding Apple AI while trying to work around Apple AI. Perform. Yeah, that's what I want in the first place. There we go. So you want the code to filled in properly, not the whole give me Mac Catalyst nonsense thing there. So we want this thing here to say return our data here, and then for the code, just use .result, open, close. Okay. From this, you can see straight away we're using the same localized string resource type that SwiftUI uses. And that means it can be localized pretty easily automatically. If you remember, SwiftUI iOS 13, 14, and 15 used a localized string key, and I think 16 onwards it kind of punted across the localized string resource. That's the new modern way of doing it. So it's very similar for SwiftUI developers at this point, which is great. As this perform method, this is the one that's interesting work here. There are a handful of things that are worth pointing out here. First, you can see it's marked async throws, which means you can do any concurrency work without problems. In fact, concurrency work is critical here, because if you think about it, this can be called by Siri or by shortcuts or by whatever. They don't want you freezing up their UI because you're doing really slow code here. So the async part becomes critical. Second, it returns some kind of intent result. And there are various options here. But each one is designed to be understood by the system. You can't send back some custom value. Here you go, have 5 as your answer and hope for the best. It's got to be an exact kind of intent result every time that the system can understand. I should say, I forgot to say earlier, sorry, I'll be saying the word SIRI quite a lot into today's workshops. And so if you have that turned on your phone or whatever, it might trigger, so watch out for that, sorry. Anyway, so some kind of intent result's got to go back, which is fine. And we're sending back an empty result. And that's okay. You'll do that quite a lot. That means we're acknowledging the intent ran, but sending nothing back to the system. It's done its work. You've, deleted something or updated something, whatever. It's done. Great. No extra data required. What we want to do is say that SIRI can read out a response on our behalf. And that means change this perform method to have a better, more detailed return type. Now, it's a bit confusing because this thing, some intent result, looks like it's going to masquerade and hide actually a really complicated result type behind the scenes. Actually, this is checked by the runtime. You must provide the exact value back you are sending. It is checked and validated at runtime. So you've got to be really precise about your return data here, sadly. And so we're going to say, yes, there will be an intent result going back, but we also want to say that Siri will read out a response on our behalf. And so I'll put some intent result, ampersand, provides dialogue. Something for the system to read out for us. And now, in this result down here, we want to say, I want to be clear what to say. And we're going to make it hard code for now so you can see it working on the screen. We'll say result dialogue of just you dreamed a lot, or you've got a lot of side projects, or you've seen a lot of dogs, your pen collection's worth £1 million, or whatever. Something here, it's hard code to get us going here. So we've now given the system some dialogue to work with, which can show or say or show and say, depending on the user's context and their settings and whatever. Nothing fancy in there, but enough we can move forward a small step. G-Ray asks, Is ampersand new syntax? No. That's been around in Swift a long time. It just composes types together. So it could be, in this case, two protocols or a class in a protocol. If you want to say it must inherit from A and conform to B, for example. It just composes two things together very easily, like that. And you'll see, actually, if you look at something like codable, for example. Codable is decodable, ampersand, encodable. Not a protocol in its own right. Anyway, so it just combines things together into one protocol, like that. So, that is our count recent dreams intent. Real simple. Like I said, it will start really simple and work our way up here. And it exists. It's done. It's ready to run. But we haven't told iOS it's available. And so it won't appear anywhere in the system. To fix that, we've got to have another type that conforms to a different protocol called App Shortcuts Provider. And that's where we're going to register all the shortcuts we want to expose to users. Ones that aren't in there can stay in your code, but they won't appear to users. So, we'll leave this one alone and make another new Swift file for our shortcuts provider. So, Command N, choose Swift file again, and then call this one our shortcuts provider. Again, this thing has to bring in the app intents framework because that's where all this API comes from. So add an import here for app intents. And then inside here, we're going to describe the shortcuts we have. So we'll say here, the new struct called shortcuts provider, which conforms to the app shortcuts provider. Shortcuts, come on, provider. You can do it. Nope. Why you hate me so much? App shortcuts provider, it's called that. Nope, Xcode's hating me. Cannot find type in scope. Am I losing the plot? Shortcuts provider? Yeah, it's there. Plural. Okay, my mistake. I wasn't filling it in. I swear it wasn't filling it in. Let me try again. App shortcuts. Shortcuts. Ah, yeah. Great. Just me being a chump. There we go. Now to do this, you've got to give it two pieces of information. One is called your shortcut tile color. I have looked extensively. I have no idea where this is used. I'd love to know where it's being used. I can't find it. It's probably in there somewhere in the shortcuts app apparently, but I can't find it. Anyway, give it a color. And interestingly, there's a whole range of options here. You could say, give me navy. Very nice. You can give a bunch of options here. Gray, blue. It's much more fun than the built-in ones. It sounds like it'll be used in the shortcuts app. It hasn't been used for me yet. Maybe that's my bad luck. Anyway, the color for our shortcut tiles. And then our app shortcuts themselves. Now, this is going to be an array of app shortcuts. Ah, good. Alex can't get to work either. Hooray! Not just me then. The app shortcuts we're working with. Now, I want to point out real fast here, this has to return an array of app shortcuts to work with. But if you right-click on the protocol and jump to definition here, you should see when it finally loads, this uses an app shortcuts builder behind the scenes to make the array. So it just basically converts a bunch of app shortcuts into an array of app shortcuts, saving you literally one open and close square brackets. Go figure. Anyway, inside here, we'll make our app shortcut. And there's a bunch of options here to choose from. We're going to do intent, phrases, short title, system image name. Break these out a little bit, make it easy to read on the screen. So we'll say line break here, 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 and here. Okay. So, what intent do we want to run? For us, that's our fancy new count recent dreams intent. Now, you don't want to provide the type. You don't want to do .self here. You want to make one of these. Make one of these directly. And that's great, because you can actually make this customizable somehow. You could say, I want to make one that takes a boolean or a string, whatever, an enum, and adjust the way it behaves internally, and list it as multiple app shortcuts with one intent behind the scenes, depending on what you need. Yeah, so let's get onto that, Dagmar. We'll get to that second. You might see I've enabled Swift 6 language mode in this project. because I'm optimistic. Don't worry. I believe, even though I believe, I hope that concurrency will be very, very much simplified in Xcode 17, please. I still believe in playing it safe, right? Which is, let's go for the best we can, Swift 6 language mode, and if it gets disabled or whatever, cut down or hobbled or whatever in the future, even better. But for now, pretend it's going to be good. We'll come back to that moment, please, Dagmar. So that's our intent to run, and it's an actual instance now. Run this exact thing, so you can customize with various options if you want to. Phrases is an array of strings. What should trigger this in Siri? So annoyingly, it's not very flexible. Like, you've got to be quite exact here by saying, count my recent dreams, or get my recent dream count, whatever. You've got to tell exactly what you mean. Siri has no smarts here whatsoever. Oh, shut up. It keeps triggering my phone when I say the S word. Let me turn that off perhaps in the meantime. Because you've got to tell it exactly what to expect, which is a bit annoying. It's not very flexible, sadly. I wish it was. Off, please. There we go. Okay. So I'll just say, count my recent dreams. Iris. Interesting. Yeah, not impossible. Confused folks are sort of tuning halfway through, but I like it. David, is it required? It is required. I mean, we haven't got a choice. It's part of the protocol. We have to conform to it and add that. And maybe it'll come back. Maybe it'll be used somewhere else. Maybe used in the future. I don't know. Apple moves mysterious ways. Anyway, that's our phrase to trigger the shortcut. Again, we'll come back to that in a second. The title to show on the screen will be just recent dream count. And a system image name. Let's go into SF symbols, beta. I bet it's Mac more often, I think. Let's go and look for some sort of sparkle, bubbles and sparkles. That's kind of dreamy, isn't it? Bubbles and sparkles. Obviously, if you're one, something that makes more sense for your particular use case. And that code's not quite right, but it's enough for the time being. I want to explain what it does before we try and fix it. This is effectively publishing our intent to the world as something that can be run. This is what users will actually interact with. This name and this icon image will be shown on the screen. And that phrase will become a Siri activation phrase. Again, it's an array because you can and should provide multiple alternative phrases that can trigger your intent. But it's also where one of our problems is. Because if we're registering Siri activation phrases that work anywhere, what's going to stop us from hijacking names of other apps and just causing havoc? Put a phrase in here, set a timer for 5 minutes or whatever, and it will just hijack that particularly common command, right? Well, it turns out Xcode is going to stop us. Xcode will kill us from doing this, which is very helpful. You press Command B, it should complain, saying, firstly, this is not concurrency safe. Great. Easy fix. Make it let. Boom. And then build it, and then this happens. And this is actually quite cool. I'm not entirely sure how it's being done behind the scenes. I think it's a macro, but I don't see the macro unless the macro hides in this thing somehow. Yeah, it's a macro somehow as well as a result builder. I don't know. Some magic is happening here, and I don't quite fully know how. See, it's not a macro. Damn it. Anyway, somewhere in here, it's running some code back. I bet it's a macro. Anyway, it's running some code back to check our data at compile time, which is normally macro territory. And it's telling us we have an invalid utterance. Every app shortcut utterance should have at least one of these things, $braces application name, in it. And what it means is we can't use a Siri activation phrase that doesn't explicitly have our application name in here. Now, it doesn't mean you should write in here in Dreamcatcher. What it means is insert a variable provided by the app shortcut provider which contains our correct application name.
Do you want me to use ChatGPT
Shut
to
up.
answer that?
Siri is very scary. It sort of triggers out the blue, Use a variable to provide the actual application name. So if it changes in the future, it updates automatically. And so you've got to write this. You've got to do a string interpolation inside here with .application name. And that will be filled in with our app's name automatically. meaning that all our Siri activation phrases are now automatically namespaced to us. We can't hijack anything. And users are never really unsure where phrases come from. It's like you run something and it does some work. How to do some work? Who knows? Now it has to know. Angelo's building 5 the app name. That's interesting. Very interesting. Either there's a mistake in the code, not impossible, or is it the right beta version? Under about Xcode, you're seeing Xcode 16.3 beta 2. It should be required. I've had that in every build I've had so far, and it does seem to want that. Does anyone else have that same thing? Same here. Cool. All working except me. Excellent. It just hates me. And also hates Charles, and so there's a bunch of folks. Interesting. I'm wondering why. So most folks are seeing the error, I think. Yeah. A couple of folks aren't seeing the error. I'm wondering why. Yes, it's a super beta, Charles. Yeah, this stuff is evolving very quickly. I do wonder, maybe pasting this Slack and someone have a look at it, perhaps. There might be a small thing there. Yeah, Stephen, that's why I think it is a macro being run behind the scenes when you press build. Yeah, it's not many successes so far, Chris, you're right. Xcode crashed, hooray! Yeah, it won't be the last time today, So, folks who have no errors, you definitely have pressed Command B on your Mac. Michael, if it is Intel versus Apple Silicon, I'll be very upset indeed. That'd be very annoying as code problems go. See, if there's no error, it suggests maybe there's a problem in the code. I don't know. Obviously, it's hard to tell how Apple do things internally, but something's happening here to provide this back, and I think it's a macro. But, finding that macro is clearly a challenge. I am kind of wondering what's triggering it behind the scenes. Let's go and look at the macro real fast. So it's not macro, the result builder, app shortcuts builder. So you. Alex, there is a shortcuts app. It's just not visible on the home screen for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. If it is there, though. Is there a macro in here? Macro. Aha, no. What's that? Applehead's macro? Probably not. Yeah, I don't know. Thousands of comments that aren't helping. That's a huge file. Oh, there we go. What's this? Oh, go back. No. Oh, God. Okay, so Masson's now getting the error. That's a good sign. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway. So, yeah, there's lots of matches to get through. Sorry. Anyway, let's focus on where we are. You should get the error. If you aren't getting the error, let's crack on and see if we get to in the future. But you should get the error when you press Command B, or being well. Just briefly, you might... okay, so the error is a bit odd, maybe inconsistent. I don't know. Anyway, you might wonder why we have a title for our intent and also a title for our shortcut. And they do different things. You might also notice I've given this thing the title Recent Dream Count for my app shortcut. And over here, Recent Dream Count. You can, and I think you should do really, just to be absolutely sure, make them a bit different. So we've got here Recent Dream Count, or if you want to, make it somehow different on the screen so you can see here which one's which, basically. So give a bit of variation on the screen, for example. I don't know which one you choose. Just something else. We could do count recent dreams here, for example. Just so they're different, so you can see when they are different on the screen. I'm not saying to make it this different in the final version, but for testing purposes to see which one's being used and where, make them different. Extract app intents metadata. There you go. Magic. Okay, anyway, so we have these two titles, and they're used in different locations. They have given them different names now, so you'll see which one's being used and where, which is very, very helpful when it comes to planning out what they should actually be on the screen. Anyway, what we have is, what we care about is, this is our Siri activation phrase. Again, array, so you can read it out and work with it straight away. Okay, go ahead, run the app now. Just press Command R, back now. And hopefully, if you don't get any errors in here, we should work correctly. Jada, I didn't use the canvas. I think I may have deleted all the previews because it has Swift data, and I couldn't bother making Swift data preview stuff, I think, if I remember. I don't tend to use previews anyway when I'm doing streams because I have my chat window over here, sadly, full of stuff. So I removed the canvases. If you want to re-add it, you can do. Anyway, the app will launch. Ignore the app. That's our regular unchanged app so far. What I want you to do is press Shift-Command-H to go to the home screen and then launch the Shortcuts app. So it's hidden away. If you swipe down, you shall see Shortcuts here, or you can just type Shortcuts and find it that way. It should be there somewhere. So run the Shortcuts app, and boom, there is Dreamcatcher. Right there with our recent dream visible on the screen. That's our recent dream count. And hopefully, if everything's going to plan, pressing that button, Dreamcatcher recent dream should, hopefully, boom, you dreamed a lot, sort of slides in as a sort of toast, I think they're called, at the top here. A little alert pop-up or whatever at the top, just kind of slides in with our information, which is great. You might also find that the shortcut appears in Spotlight. So if I do, again, Shift-Command-H, go to the home screen, and then swipe down, if I search for Dreamcatcher, yeah, good luck. No shortcut. It might appear there, is what I said, and it's true, it might appear there. It's done by Apple. What Spotlight chooses to show and when is opaque logic. It's down to iOS. It'll surface shortcuts based on internal logic Apple doesn't reveal. So it might appear here with a bunch of things next to it. It might not. Honestly, only Apple can do this, it turns out. Anyway, one step forward. Even better, if a user really loves this intent, oh, this is great, I love knowing I dreamed a lot, whatever, they can go to the Shortcuts app and just grab that intent out of there. They can just literally press and appears a CH, lucky you, and just press and hold on this shortcut here and say, yeah, I want to add that to my home screen and stash it away as my dream count with like a, I don't know, color scheme, whatever, and press add, and it'll now be on the home screen. Boom, there it is. I can just press tap. You dreamed a lot. And so this is now an independent icon that launches our app to do exactly one thing. Now, behind the scenes, it is doing all our work. It's launching our app intent, running our code, sending the result back to iOS, which is then using the dialogue in whatever way it sees fit. And behind the scenes, it is launching our main Dreamcatcher abstract. This thing here is being launched. This whole thing's being launched and run, which is great. On an iPhone, yeah. So again, Siri does what Siri wants to do. And sorry, Spotlight does, sorry. We have no control of that logic. It's kind of opaque. Well, completely opaque. What am I saying? Not kind of, completely opaque. We have no say. Anyway, the whole app is being made. It doesn't run the body property. There's no point. There's no, UI being made. And therefore, the Swift UI view hierarchy is not being made. But the app itself is being made. And that matters a great deal, as you'll see. So now we've got our setup code in place. We can make it actually try and work here. Let's try and actually load the number of dreams or pens or guitars or side projects from the last month. To make that happen, we want to write some Swift data code. There are various points today, Alex, where I'm going to say, please file feedbacks to Apple because this API doesn't work or is broken or is half-baked or is wrong, whatever. Look, the team is working very, very hard. I have no idea how they are keeping this extreme pace for so long at Apple, and even then they're having a hard time. So I'm very, very grateful to them but please do file feedback anyway. Let them know what matters to us most, and that's a good example there. Shortcut tile color apparently does nothing at all. Anyway, focus. We're going to write some Swift data code. We're going to read our actual data here in our intent. Now, we already have, we have this model container here, whatever. We have in our dream list, we have an at query. This is regular Swift data code. But if you've used Swift data in the past, you'll know one of its biggest frustrations is at query is designed to only work inside Swift UI. We don't get that now. We aren't in Swift UI land anymore. Instead, we're in intents. Our thing over here, our count recent dream intent, is nothing to do with Swift UI. We cannot get access to at query here. That's okay. Because we also don't have to have data that updates. And that's what at query does. It fetches data for you, and then as the data changes, it refreshes the query automatically. We don't need that here. It runs once. It's a single shot, just get it and show it, right? So issuing a regular data fetch is enough, just doing it by hand. So what we're going to say is inside our current perform method body here, we're going to start out by saying, give me access to our underlying Swift data storage. So I'll say our model container will be try model container for dream.self. T asks about translation. So across the board, everywhere, even indirectly, this thing will use a localized string resource. So it uses the same localization system as SwiftUI. So if you're doing right now, there's localizable strings, whatever, strings dicts, I'm not using behind the scenes, string catalogs. It'll be the same thing. The same code will be used here. It's very, very helpful in that respect. It's the same idea. Anyway, grab me a new model container for use inside our intent. Again, a single shot request. Now, we're going to get recent dreams here. And so I'm going to say, I want to go back a month from now. Now, of course, if you're feeling lazy, you could say, my date cutoff is date.now minus 1 day in seconds minus 31. Fine. I'm going to do it slightly smarter. We're going to say use the current calendar and then do date by adding here. So adding, we're going to add months minus 1 to now. So go back an actual date from now correctly. Cunningly, that return optional for reasons that I'm sure are very important because dates are hard. So I'll do a nil correct to now if that goes wrong, but it shouldn't go wrong because it's the date from now, right? A month from now. So that's our date cutoff. I want to find things newer than that. Oh, hello. Yes? Aha, coffee. Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're the best. Thank you. Kids are great. So, our date cutoff there, right? So that's the oldest dream or pen or car, whatever you want to find. Fernando, no, dogs don't tend to knock. They just walk in by themselves. They've got their own dog plans. Anyway, date cutoff. We want to try and now use that to make a fetch descriptor, which is a manual query for Swift data, to find all dreams since that date. So I'll say our descriptor here, descriptor, is a new fetch descriptor of dreams. Fetch me all the dreams that match a predicate. And this is Swift data, of course. You want to use the hash predicate macro like that. And if you haven't used it before, it'll say to you, okay, here's an item from the database. What do you want to do with it? Does it match your predicate or not? And for us, we're going to say, well, does $0, that dream, does that have a date greater than our date cutoff? So find dreams that took place newer than our 1 month ago, we're saying here. So that describes the data to fetch here. Has them in months, does it not? Oh, is it stop month? Sorry, I stop month probably. I have auto compile thing turned off. Sorry, the auto build warning thing turned off. It's probably stop month. I should probably turn it on, shouldn't I? Really? Sorry. Editing. No, where is it? Show errors as I type, please. So many options. None of those. Live issues. There you go. Sorry, month. Yeah, nav. The other error is cool. Anyway, give me new dreams. Then once we have that, we can run that request and get the result back. So we can say our dreams will be try our model container, our main context, fetch the count of our descriptor, like that. Now we still have more work to do here. Before we continue, we got a problem. We are now reading the main context of our model container. And that's restricted to the main actor, which in @query, SwiftUI land, is fine. You're on the main actor regardless. However, this intent is not SwiftUI. It can be running anywhere. And Swift won't let us, or even like us, trying to mix the two. And so we've got two choices here. The first is simple, and it's the one that most folks go straight for. You can basically mark the whole perform method as being main actor restricted. You could say this thing here, you must run on @main actor, like so. And it works great. And generally, with database access, I think working on a fixed actor is a great idea. Whether that's the main actor or a custom actor, doesn't matter. Restricting to be a nice serial flow of requests is very good on a database. An alternative is to create your own context locally rather than using the main context. If you want to do that approach instead, you would first make your model container like before, and then afterwards make a local model context from that by just doing model context on that model container, like so. And then, rather than saying our container main context, just use your local model context for the fetch count, like so. If that's your approach, great. You can remove the main actor thing from here. That'll work correctly now. Whichever one you choose, doesn't matter, but you gotta pick one of them. Main actor everything, or make a local context, you choose. To finish off and solve my last remaining compiler error, we need to send back some dialogue with a number of recent dreams. Now, annoyingly, I'm not quite sure why. Maybe I'm just doing it wrong. This does not support automatic grammar agreement out of the box, which is a feature I love in SwiftUI. I love it in SwiftUI so much. It's not available here. I'll do it by hand. It's not hard to do, fortunately. We'll just say down here after our dreams that we have a message, which would be a new attributed string, localizing the text of you've had, and then your grammar agreement work. Now, if you haven't seen it before, it's got quite unique API. It is all stringly typed for reasons known to Apple. You use a caret symbol, so Shift-6 for me in a British keyboard, then a square bracket, and then your value. So we'd do something like, our dreams number, and then a word like dream. What to keep singular or plural, like so. And then inflect true in parentheses, like so. So it's markdown syntax, fancy markdown syntax, but it becomes correctly singular or plural for us at runtime. And it works in English, French, German, Italian, Brazilian and European Portuguese, as well as, of course, all the world sensible languages like, Japanese and Chinese, where there is no plural and singular. It just works out of the box. Anyway, so it's a now hopefully say you've had 0 dreams. You've had 1 dream. You've had 2 dreams, all correctly. And with that in place, we can now send it back as dialogue. Now, if we do return a result with the dialogue, where's dialogue? None of those, cool. I'll just do myself dialogue. There we go. We can't just do message. There's got to be an intent dialogue value instead. So we've got to basically put that into a string somehow. We've got to just do like a string interpolation of message, like so. Come on, Hudson. This is the worst. There we go. Got there in the end. Put it into a string. It's still an intent dialog, but intent dialog is able to be made from strings automatically. That will correctly flatten our attributed string down to plural and singular, and then put intent dialog, and then send it back to Siri. We're going to make one last change here, but first, try out what we have, and it should, if we're lucky, all see it working correctly. I'll press Command R to build and run my code. And then I'll, quit the app, whatever, and I'm in here, shortcut, you've had 5 dreams. So you can see it's now saying dreams with an S on the end. It has correctly pluralized dream down here because the number is 5, which is what the grammar agreement has done. Can you string message? You mean just like directly stringify it? It needs to be an intent dialog is a problem. Intent dialogue is actually happening here. It's not a string. It looks like a string. It's not a string. If you look at intent dialogue, you'll see why. It is expressible by string interpolation. So you can literally write a string out. It looks like a string to us, but it's not to Swift. It's an intent dialog automatically, which provides, as you can see, more information. There's a flat string here, but also more information down here, full and supporting text, or give me an image attached to it if you want to, depending on what other variants you want to attach to it. Yeah. Anyway, so it's not really a string. It looks stringish, but it's not really a string. So the nice thing about this is this works correctly everywhere. Even though I know it's a trivial feature, you can be anywhere now. You can be, sitting in your simulator, browsing in Safari or something over here, and talk to Siri. Say, hey Siri, what's my recent dream count, whatever, and it'll tell you without leaving Safari. And this is great because it means the user hasn't going to think, oh, exit this thing and then launch my app and then da-da-da-da. You don't pull them away. You're just exposing that one small piece of information. Plural still vinyl. Is it still vinyl? I have 3 vinyl. Vinyls? I don't know. I actually have some vinyls over there. I have some pretty obscure ones that I love deeply. I'll show them to you later on. I'm very proud of them. Anyway, I thought we vinyls with an S. Moose. Moose is fine. Sheep, whatever, is fine. There's a handful of that. Anyway, if it is just singular, if it is moose, meeson, whatever, then yeah, just remove the plural code entirely. What I was saying was, those matters. The reason this feature is cool is because the user hasn't got to leave their app. They're working on something on their Mac or working on their iPad or iPhone. They ask a question or use the action button and it shows it up straight away. They haven't got to launch your app and find the thing and trigger it. This just finds where they are out losing contact, which is really, really key. It keeps in their current context brilliantly, which is great. Fernando, yes, it only works in a handful of languages, and Apple are weirdly secretive about which ones. But I happen to know it's English, French, German, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, both types. That was the correct list of languages. And I found that out by just grilling them intensively again and again and again. Anyway, before this intent is done, and before you want to try and start some coding your own, I want to make one small extra change here. So our intent sends back 2 pieces of data. We're going to send back a value as well as dialogue. Tim, you'll find actually it's probably easier with core data because it gets rid of the whole Swift data complexity of at query updating here, not here, whatever. It's probably easier in core data. Yes, it works great in core data. Curiously, somewhat worryingly, all Apple sample code does not use Swift data. They actually back onto their own custom, it's property list XML, because Apple, of course it is, data storage system. They don't use Swift data or core data at all. They use their own custom thing to avoid some of these problems, I think, quite frankly, which is great fun. Anyway, we're going to modify this thing to send back 2 pieces of data, a value as well as dialogue. So this requires to change the signature. It really matters here. We're going to say here, yes, we return a value, yes, we provide dialogue, but we also want to return a value. So we'll say here, intent result and provides dialogue and returns a value of an integer, like that. So it's going to do three things now. Yes, the result worked on it, didn't work, whatever. Yes, some dialogue, and yes, a value going back to. And so now down here, we're going to say, there's our dialogue, but we'll all send back a value of an integer containing our number of dreams. Like that. It's a small change here. Small change, but it does matter. So with that in place, firstly, just run the app. Make sure the new app's on the device. So just press Command R to ship our intent to the simulator. Like that. And the app, of course, is more or less the same. You can go back and, press on this button here, and it'll still say, hopefully, you've had 5 dreams. So the actual result hasn't changed. But now we're giving iOS 2 pieces of information to work with. We have the dialogue to read and or, show, but also the underlying value represented by that dialogue. And this is where app intents get really clever. We've exposed a tiny part of our app to iOS, and it now has a raw value it can work with. And so, in the Shortcuts app, we can use that value somehow. We could perhaps send a message to ourselves or an email to ourselves about how many really intense dreams we've had recently, or append to a note in the Notes app or whatever. It's just a pure integer number now. And that output from our program can become input for other apps. See it in action. Just go ahead and launch Shortcuts again from Utilities here. And rather than run it directly, so press that, I'll just run this action, boom, 5 dreams. Don't do that. Press this plus button. This makes a new shortcut, a collection of stuff here. And you'll see we have the search actions box. I'm just searching here for Dreamcatcher. There we go. There is our count recent dreams thing. Now, earlier I pointed out the app intent and app shortcut have individual titles. And here's where it matters. The shortcut's title is used where it's a regular shortcut action. And the intents title is used when there's a whole chain of intents in one big shortcut. So we're now seeing count recent dreams here, as opposed to before, I think we had recent dream count. So different phrasing. One is from one place, one's from the other place. They mean different things. That's why I said have different titles. You can see it visually on the screen. Obviously, in your final version, same or similar title, but here I want you to see their different titles for a reason. Anyway, press plus, go to Dreamcatcher, and now select count recent dreams. And it's saying, do you want to, show when it runs? No, we don't. Don't show it running. I don't care what the output is. We aren't trying to launch our app or see that bubble or whatever. We don't care what the dialogue is. We just saying, just run this thing silently. And you press play. And it'll say, okay, 5. 5 has come back as a number. The dialogue's not shown. Again, dialogue, I go this thing here and press play. It'll say, okay, there's your answer in text appears. We don't want that. This is just pure data now. So I've turned off show when run. Don't show that. Just give me number 5. Here's the things that are clever. We can go back to search actions and add something else. Now, if you're like me in the simulator, I'm afraid the options are really limited. If you're on an actual device, you'll see a whole bunch of things that can ingest your values and do something with them. So in here, I don't know what you're going to do. You could say, for example, go to the Reminders app. There's not a lot of options here. Reminders is one of them that actually works. And it'll say to you, okay, what do you want to do? Or we could say, I want to add a new reminder, whatever. And this thing becomes chained to the previous action. And so now we can customize the reminder text. Now you could say, okay, type in here, buy more dog treats as your reminder. And it'll create a reminder called buy more dog treats. But critically, it also allows us to use variables inside here, which is really, really helpful. So the right at the bottom for me, because I have the hardware keyboard enabled, it's quite bad UX and submitted terribly, sadly. But the select variable area lets us insert things inside here, either directly in the reminder name or as part of a larger text, whatever. if you have the hardware keyboard enabled like I do, it's just very hard to use for some reason. It kind of confuses this bar here with things behind it. If I press, that's going down to that thing correctly, but if you get it wrong, it might press the wrong thing. So just watch out, you're choosing the right thing. You want to see Count Recent Dreams appear like that. So press this exact button here. See, it's got the button behind it now for some reason. It's not that one. I want the one in front. That's button behind. That's button behind. Anyway, maybe disable the hardware keyboard if you have to get the regular keyboard up. If you're lucky. Nope. There it is. That makes it easier. Press the button like that. Point is, you want that actual thing here. Count Recent Dreams. Here. And so, when we insert Count Recent Dreams into the Create Reminder thing here, it will use the output from our number, right? Which in our case was 5. So, I'll press Done and press Play. It'll say, do you want to add a reminder? Yeah, allow it. Always allows. Fine. It's the simulator anyway. It's fine. And boom, it's added a reminder for today with the number 5 in. Now, obviously, that's not a real shortcut to use. You want to use an actual real one, perhaps add it to another app or some more complex logic and email it, whatever. What matters here is we're now saying, give me some dialogue and give me a value that can be chained somewhere else. Data comes out from our app and into another app without the user seeing our UI at all. They just press the action button and boom, 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 boom. Things happen behind the scenes. And that's at the core of app intents, exposing a small slice of our app. The system can then read and even chain into other apps as needed. Of course, this is still very small, but it's a start, right? And also highlights the structure of these intents. Now, before we do something more exciting, it's over to you. I would like you now to add another intent to the app, to send back something else. If you're using dreams, your intent might be something like how many intense dreams you had in the last week. If you're for a different theme, perhaps it might be total number of app ideas you have outstanding. It's be a large number, right? Or maybe it'll add up all the income from your side hustles, whatever. It's up to you. But it's the most important part of the workshop, the bit where you do the work to apply what you've learned to solve a problem that's personal to you. Some questions really briefly. Shortcuts in Simulator finds the intent, but on device not showing up. I have no idea. But the thing is, it's being published, it's appearing in the Simulator, if it's not on device, good luck. It could be a beta issue, probably not. This is fairly simple in the intense structure for right now. It ought to appear. The logic is exactly the same on real devices. I would say, obviously, that Apple does choose what appears and what doesn't appear, but it should appear. Michael's saying you can call your own app. Yes, by all means, go to town, see what happens. Kevin Hall, is there a way to trigger Count Recent Dreams if it's not shown at the bottom of the screen? You mean as the input for the reminder? You can't type it. It's got to appear as that list, as that tappable button directly. Maybe disable hardware keyboard, so like Shift-Command-K to toggle the keyboard. Because now... Oh, hello. You like shortcuts, huh? You can't type it. You got to use that exact button. Maybe remove the hardware keyboard, because that might be causing the problem. Wait a minute, dogs. Are you drooling on me? Don't drool on me. Wait. Up. Wait. Calm. You get fed regularly, dogs. You get fed all the time, Sorry, there's a question somewhere involved, wasn't there? Can't remember. So if it's not appearing, try turning off the hardware keyboard. That might be the problem. So I'll go here, add a new reminder, check into there, and now it appears here under select variable. You can kind of swipe your way through it a little bit. It should be in here with other possible inputs. Like that, and you just want Count Recent Dreams. It's much easier to do when you have the hardware keyboard disabled. As you can see, the button works first time. Isa Hashim asks, are we using returns values with the values dreams count? We aren't using a fetch. We're not using fetch. We're using fetch count. Fetch count returns an integer directly and avoids all the extra memory allocation of, grabbing all the objects from Swift data here. Should work better. Right, last one. Oh, you're dressed up. I'm not sure it comes across very well on camera. They're wearing their little bandanas. Oh, you dressed up to this Unwrap Live today. Where are you? Let me see. Let everyone see your bandana. Come here. Luna, come here. Come on. Come here. What? What? Are you going to see this? Under the fluff somewhere is a dog bandana. There's lots of fluff, sorry. Good dog. Anyway. Questions. Treats. You hungry? Never get fed. Never get fed. Right. Yeah, they certainly think they're very cute. They certainly think they're very cute indeed. Right. One last treat. Yeah, wait a minute. You get fed all the time. Come on. Wait. Hungry dog. Wait. 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 Good dogs. Right. Off you go. We are lucky that Samoyeds are self-feeding. We just leave food out for them all the time. Just dry food. They can eat whenever they want to. All day, every day. They are not denied food ever, no matter what they might try and tell you. I like Kiwi, you can't tell really on the camera, but the smaller one is Luna. That's the one I picked up. The bigger one's Aria. She's not being picked up because she's a bit big that one. But Luna's a smaller of the two, and she's more pickable, upable, let's call it. Anyway, so the goal for right now is to make a new app intent for your code to return something else. Remember, make a new app intent conforming type here. And then make sure you add a new entity in the shortcuts provider. So you've got struct over here, shortcuts provider. You've got to have this new thing listed in here. So you have two app shortcuts inside here, one for the current one and one for the new one you're making right now. Give it a try. If you have any questions, I can try and answer them here. When you've made something, get a screenshot. Put it into Slack in the #Unwrap channel, please. And I'll look at them here. I'll give you a few minutes. I should say, I didn't mention earlier our timings for the day. If you look on the plus site, I listed them there. So we're looking at approximately New York time, 9 a.m. to 10:45. That's about half an hour from now will be our first break. Approximately 15 minutes, so make some tea, whatever. Stroke the dogs. Come on, out you go. Come on, sit down. Go. Chris Reiner says, I assume instead of checking Swift data here, we could be calling out to a REST API and getting a result. Right, yes, so you will see all the work we're doing is marked async throws. You can kind of go to town here and get information within reason. What Apple chooses to allow or not allow is down to them at all times. But I don't see why not. Give it a try. Just be warned that if it's not explicitly documented, the fact that it works now doesn't mean it'll always work. If Apple doesn't promise it will work in the future, who knows? If app requires login, that can't be for the app intent. So you can add logic inside this in a similar way to have logic inside your main app, but you wouldn't want at this point to make them log in. This isn't just run when they're already logged in. You could just reply back saying, sorry, you aren't logged in. That's fine, but you want to ideally have them already logged in at this point. And so you might grab your main app login controller and say, are they logged in? Yes, user data. Otherwise, bail out and say, no, not logged in directly. But you wouldn't want to do a login at this point if possible. So for that one, Bear Studio by Bear Island, just make sure whatever your return type here is matches the type signature for the method here. So I'm saying I want to have a result. Good, that's a result here. I provide some dialog. Boom, that's a dialog parameter. And I return a value of integer. That's its value here. It should be checked for your compile time, particularly the value return type. But if you don't, if you, for example, had use, let's do that. No. It's going to complain at runtime and say, no, you've said there's a dialogue or whatever. Doesn't like that. Humberto's asking what all the types lab returned again. So it's not a integer. It's a particular type inside. I remember what it is, but it's not this. Come on, return result. It's got a name for it. That's not helpful. Intent value. Cool. It does have a list of options for this. If I just enter in, I don't know, a dream here, it might complain directly. Nope. Damn it. There's a way of making it tell you, oops, that's the wrong kind of data. It's not that clearly. And it has to be some kind of, it's like intent result convertible or something is what the type is behind the scenes. But it's a subset of values that Siri knows how to handle. It'd be like, int double string, boolean perhaps. Nothing fancy, let's put it that way. Date perhaps will work, for example. It's probably properly list types ultimately. Kevin asks, does it register with the app install? I think it's app install. I think it doesn't require an app to be run. I think the system actually scans for the shortcut provider statically, I think. Because we don't ever call it. Our app doesn't actually have this anywhere. But find out. Give it a try. I think, to be fair, the odds of a user installing an app, not running it, and trying to add a shortcut straight away, pretty slim. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. John asks, does let model container, where is that? Up here, yes. Create a new database. So model container is the only, I think. It's either the only or one of like two. I'm pretty sure it's the only. The only Swift data type that is actually safe to transfer around in your programs. I mean, like between actors, the main actor, background actor, whatever. You can pass containers around freely because they are sendable. What it means is you can pass them around, you can recreate them whenever you want to, and they'll all point to the same data source safely. It will not recreate one for just the intent. That will be a shared dream container for your main app, for your intent, automatically. It's great. Can we parameterize the perform method somehow? Like intensity, We can parameterize. We are going to parameterize, and you'll see exactly how it's done shortly. And it'll ask you questions, which is great. David asks, off-topic question. This is the right time, by the way. We're looking at workshop coding and similar. This is the right time. When should we use observable object and the new observable macro for view models? They are not state object. So state object is definitely gone, which is great. I'm glad to see it gone. The TLDR short version is nearly always you want to use the observable macro. It is significantly faster, simpler, safer, better across the board. It's just a good thing to use. The only time I would suggest to use the observable object protocol, the older one, is either you need backcompat, so iOS 15 or something you want to transport. But for modern apps, realistically, it's when you want that publisher, because the observable object protocol gives you an object will change publisher you can work with. And you can either call it directly as object will change.send, or you can use app published, but it still sends out changes to the world. And it's really helpful because you can then attach combine operators to it to say, okay, when this changes, map it to this, try this, and sync to this. Long old chain of stuff to respond to changes directly, which is really nice. So for example, if you want to make a debouncing object for SwiftUI, so it'll do some work only after some time has passed, that is a great example of when you want to use observable object. It's much, much easier at that point to use that. You don't get that observable, sadly. I used it once more recently, and is it a hack? kind of a hack. I just shipped an app on the App Store. And it's annoying because there's bugs in the app that I cannot fix because I've been locked out of my App Store Connect account. And I fixed them locally, but I can't put them live, sadly. And the app shows like a little mini game, one of the things. There's like 100 levels, 200 levels to choose from. As you play through, it kind of stars the ones you've completed. And you do a game, you play it through, and that list has to refresh with the correct number of stars for the level. And that's very hard to do with app storage. It's weirdly hard to do with app storage. And I ended up having to use user defaults to do it. And user defaults does not auto-refresh when a change happens. And so I've got a bit of a hack in there, which is that it watches an observable object. I just say, hey, I've changed when any level's completed, and that view refreshes itself. Bit of a hack, but it works. I'm happy with it. That was a long answer to a random question. Can apps be pre-configured with shortcuts? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not a massive shortcuts user myself, like, in terms of my personal life. The main one I use is for the action button on my iPhone because it's got a bunch of options for like flashlight on, off, whatever. But I use it for orientation lock. I missed that feature from the old iPad. Chris, thanks for coming, man. Take care. I missed the orientation lock button. And so I use that to orientation lock. And that's a shortcut that toggles orientation lock. If it's on, turn it off. If it's off, turn it on, basically. And that's what I use it for. Primarily, can you ship with them pre-made? I suspect not. I reckon they're very personal to users. And so it probably wouldn't let you ship them. Michael asks, how have you used App Intense? Well, actually, Michael, bizarrely, I've been using this since iOS 10. The older SiriKit framework, I jumped on straight away because it let you hook into it didn't get any use. I don't know why. That's a brilliant thing. Maps, back then, Apple announced in iOS 10, you could hook into Maps and create intents for Maps to overlay your stuff in Maps. And no app, I think, uses it, despite being quite brilliant. I jumped on it straight away because it's so much fun. And I made a tool, an app, that would let you do cab hailing for nearby, ride sharing directly in Maps. You could sort of see the cars in the Maps app directly, rather than launching Lyft or Uber or whatever, directly inside the apps thing there. That was intense on like day 1. Day 0 it was beta 1 or something. It was very, very early. David asks, when I have my VM initialized in the view, I'm marking at state, and it will read the view model and changes. Is it a performance issue? So when you use at state, in theory, it should be absolutely fine. It should use the initial value version of state, which shouldn't recreate it again and again and again, or it shouldn't do any work to recreate it again and again and again. It should be fine. But the main reason we use it is for performance reasons, because it will do significantly less view invalidation for you when data changes happen, which is a great, great, great benefit. It's much, much faster across the board. Dagmar, I want to add an app shortcut to app shortcuts in the choice provider. I put shortcuts in the other man array. So we don't, check the app shortcut with lowercase c there, but make sure it's not an array. It should be using the builder. So just literally paste it in. That's it. One here, and then like another one below, like that. It uses that app shortcut build system behind the scenes. It ends up being an array, but it's done by result builder magic rather than doing it in a visible, easy way for reasons. Humberto asks, is the dream of Apple Intelligence the system will be smart enough not to rely on specific phrases triggering others? You might have seen yesterday that Apple pulled an advert about Apple Intelligence, which is very, very, very unusual. They did it there was an iPad advert last year that destroyed an iPad on camera. Not iPad, it destroyed a camera and a piano and stuff on camera. Very negative reaction. They removed that one. But they removed one of the Apple Intelligence adverts. The one with the lady from Game of Thrones was in it. And this is really unusual. Apple don't like doing this. And they took it out because they've more or less changed their tune on when Apple Intelligence is going to land. It was supposed to be imminently, and now it's later this year, so it's going to be probably iOS 19 point something or other, 0.1, whatever. And so the dream of Apple Intelligence is the advert we saw, and it was like, something like, "Hey Siri, where was I when I last met Zach?" or something like that. And then it goes, "Oh, you met Zach at the so-and-so," or something like that. It tells her name, something like that. It reminds her of very specific niche question, like really niche stuff, and it gets it correct. Oh yeah, he's called Zach. Yeah. We're nowhere near that. We're nowhere near that. We're nowhere near that. We're nothing like even fractionally near to that. Even if we go through all of today's workshop code and all Apple's API we have so far, we're nowhere near that. It's a pipe dream at this point, which is annoying. But it's where we are. I can show you the API. I can tell you the dream. I can show you the advert. But yeah, good luck getting it to work. Anyway, side issue. How are we getting on? How are we getting on with any code published so far? I'm going to look at my little Slack channel over here. So look what we got. Yeah, look at this. Yes. What do we have here? So let's go right to the top. Who is first? Okay. I think... Oh, yeah, look at this. Got remove. Spaghetti Rain is dead. Okay, very nice, Alex. We have one cow-related dream. Yeah, that's a very important one. I dream about cows a lot. Get the last dream. Yes, Spaghetti Rain. Good. We have here... I can't tell I was doing recent dream. Oh, I put in intensity, presumably, in that one, I'm guessing. Then we have one here for... Yep, intense dreams the last month. Great. I wasn't quite sure it was like nightmares or whatever dreams, but you can have intense happy dreams, I guess. I don't know. Ooh, mathematics. Good. Our intensity of 5 dreams. Good. Yes, counting intense dreams. Very nice. There's 3 in there now. Good. Good. Dreams very intense. Good. Yeah, looking nice. D&D fans. Oh, yes. Yes. Dice rolling as a service. But I mean, that's brilliant. You can see why it's useful. Have literally a home screen full of dice numbers. Just press a dice. It goes boom, roll or whatever. Like that. I like that a lot. Yes. Do that. Killer idea. Very good. Then we've got Juan saying, yep, 203. Oh, it lists them out as well. Very nice. Computers. Ooh, Apple IIc. Oh, Mega 1200. Yes, that's an absolute classic. I don't have the money for classic Mac, sadly, but I do have my favorite Macs. I've got the favorite iMac there, and I've got a Mac Pro. I'm not sure you can see it behind me, but the trash can Mac Pro I quite like a lot. It's sitting over there somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, let's dream name Custard. I'm not going to ask questions out of dream. It's fine. Then we have Ramesh getting the high intensity dream. Good. Oh, the highest intensity dream. Okay, very nice. Then we have intention counts workouts. I'm not sure. Let's find out. So I'm going to launch it back here. See how it looks. Oh. Oh. Yeah, okay. Very nice. Okay. 50 calories. You know, it might actually do. Suitably intense dream might do. The show when run thing there would just hide that box appearing at the top. I think it's a bit nicer. Most recent was GNX. Good. So we've got vinyl collecting going on here, which is cool. Nice icon use too. I'm liking that very much. Letters sent. Oh. Did you see on the news that the Danish postal service is now stopping delivering post? There's no more post. No one letters anymore, apparently. The dying art. Old dreams. What do you have here? Ah, okay, fair enough. For a certain date, presumably. Okay. We have Sam. Okay, yes, good. Yes, that honestly, Philip, that's exactly correct. That's pretty much accurate, I think. Side projects. I spent way too much time in the last sort of month or so building a new website for my kid, because she's taking part in another cybersecurity hacking event shortly, and so I made a whole website about buying clothing for your dogs, hats and bow ties and stuff for your dogs. And it's a really detailed website, but it's got various security holes in that she and her team must try and hack her way through to try and practice hacking. But yeah, I've got too many side projects as well. A bunch of code, good. Simply Kyra. Yeah. So, yeah, exactly correct. Good job. Bunch of ideas here. Yes, look at this. But you can see how easy it is. Once you've got the basic thing down, how easy it is to get other infinite ideas out of this, because there's so much more you can do with it, which is cool. Intensity 0.7, very nice. Oh, theatre diary. This is great. I honestly, I've said it countless times at this point. My number one best advice of building a killer app is just to take a thing you love. Theatres, pens, guitars, vinyls, whatever, and make the app for that. Which is why I think Danielle's made one about cannabis and Pokemon, right? And now vinyl. So we're able to get the sort of Danielle collection of hobbies at this point. That's great, because it's if you make the app you want as an expert on theatre outings or whatever, there's 1.5 billion folks on the App Store, folks, with their credit cards attached to their App Store account. Boom, that's a great customer base out there waiting for you. Next up, we have Campervan Coda. That Vision Pro. I bet it was. My Vision Pro normally sits behind me, just collecting dust. It's not there. It's missing from next to the dog treat tin because I've been locked out of my App Store Connect account. I was getting desperate. I'm like, clearly somewhere, some device logged in as me. So I had to charge my Vision Pro for the first time in 6 months or longer. And it wasn't that, sadly. So I'm still locked out. Anyway, a bunch more code. Intensity, that's okay. I mean, Carlos, you don't have to be, creative. Follow along with whatever makes you happy. It's fine. Honestly, it's not. There's no pressure here. Sharing things is fun to get ideas, inspiration, and code and so forth. But there's no pressure. A video from Pedro. Let's have a look. Let's maximize this video. Oh, that's gone wrong. Cool. Slack totally failed. Cool. Okay, let's try it again. Try again, Slack. Okay. There you go. Very nice. Good. Okay. So talking to Siri, you see it all works very nicely. And Michael steals Vision Pro almost daily. Lucky for you. Mine never gets used. Anyway. Okay. Has everyone had a go at noodling around with an example? Try things out. I'm taking science as a yes. Okay. The next step, I'll just touch on it briefly because we'll do a break in a few minutes. We've got our basic app intent working. So you can see the structure of these things, the app intent and the app shortcuts provider over here. We're going to go one step higher next. We'll make an app intent that actually understands our data. So users can select something they care about using shortcuts or Siri or whatever they want to. But this is going to feel a bit like yak shaving because we got to do a thing, and to do that thing, we got to do something else. And to do that thing, we got to do something else, and something else, and eventually you find yourself shaving a yak and you can't remember why. That's why it's called yak shaving, right? To do A, you got to do B. To do B, you got to do C. To do C, you got to do Q. Eventually, you can go back and do A, finally. And this really feels like yak shaving, as you're going to see. You've already met intents. They describe actions our app can perform. Their counterparts are entities, which describe a piece of data in our app. And so we have our intent over here already, our app intent protocol, which we must conform to in providing actions. Separately is an app entity protocol, which must conform to when we want to try and share data with the system. Now, our Dreamcatcher app was built for a modern Swift UI, Swift Data Land. It already has a data model in place called Dream, right? That's where we store our data here. And so we can say to Swift, I want to find this Dream type here and make it an app entity. Extend this thing to use app intents. So I'd say in Dream, let's do import app intents, and then add an extension on Dream to conform to app entity. Like that. And it can be empty. And you'll see straight away, Xcode is like, nope, I don't think so. Conformance of dream sendables unavailable. These things, the persistent models, are not sendable. Have an actor or whatever you want to somewhere else. So, this looks neat, and it would be neat if it actually worked. The problem is that app entities are things that must be stored by iOS somehow. And they'll be sent into and out from our app as part of intents. And Swift data's models, like Dream and similar, are not safe to send like that. This code here will not work. You cannot do it. This thing here, our app entity, if you look in the protocol directly, you'll see it requires that it is an app value and representable and identifiable. And this thing, app value itself, another protocol somewhere else, protocol app value. This thing itself is sendable. So the absolute requirement of app entities is they are sendable. And the absolute truth about all Swift data model objects is they're not sendable. These two things do not go together. You try and put them together, you're just fighting a losing battle here. Don't do it. And so Apple's official recommendation is, well, they say pretty clearly, that you keep your app entities separate from all your data logic itself. All your main app models live over here, all your app entities live somewhere else. And they say you should shadow any values you want. Shadowing is a fancy way of saying simply copy data from your Swift data model to a separate app entity struct as needed. It's annoying. I know it's annoying. I would really, really much rather there was some joined up thinking from Apple and they found a way to make models be app entities automatically. That is not the case right now. Again, I mentioned earlier, Apple's own sample code here solves this problem by simply not using Swift data. They have their whole own codable data model using XML rather than Swift data. And even at the time, marked it with @unchecked sendable to avoid early compiler problems. They obviously shipped this thing a while ago. And so they couldn't do it either. Maybe WC25. Look, it's gonna be a massive whack in the face of Apple Intelligence. It's gonna be huge Apple Intelligence across the board. They might refine, fix, solve these problems for us. Sadly, the Swift data team is very small. There's not very many of them, and so I suspect it won't get enough push forward. We'll see. My class, could a macro do that? Could it? Probably. Should it? No. No, it would get very, very messy if we were trying to do that code ourselves. I think I'd recommend against that. It'd get complicated. Anyway, the point of this is, this code here, it's not going to work. We cannot do that. We'll make a separate app entity type where we copy across the values we actually care about. That, though, can wait after a short break. So delete the Dream extension. That's not going to work. Leave it out. We're going to have a 15-minute break. I'll see you back in 15 minutes from now. I'm going to hang around, though, for a few minutes. If you have any questions, now's your chance. And I'll try and drink some of my coffee. Otherwise, please stretch your legs, get an eye break, whatever you want to. Make some tea, go to the bathroom, whatever. Do get away from the screen temporarily. I don't want people, getting leg problems, sitting down, staring at the screen too long because of me. Yeah, Abiza, if macros are the answer, you're asking the wrong question. I encourage folks to use macros that Apple makes themselves, but don't create their own macros. It's really, really a bad idea. Fernando, yes, there's a different stream link for stream 2. If you're a Plus subscriber, the link will be on the Plus homepage, session 2. If you aren't, I'll paste that in the Slack channel at the time, at 4 o'clock precisely, UK time, 11 o'clock New York time. Anyway, I'll be here a few minutes more. If you have any questions, now's your chance to ask them. Otherwise, I can also go and walk around a bit. Stretch my legs and stuff. I've managed to break my Apple Pencil by removing the tip by accident. Let's try and fix it again. Too much futzing around while I'm talking. There we go. Any questions? I have no idea, Alex. Apple has to enhance, upgrade, build on iOS every year. I mean, it makes the overwhelming amount of their money. They must ship new iPhones. They must whatever. It has a requirement for them at this point. They can't not. And it's gone very, very far behind, very far ahead, sorry, of what the majority of users want to have. Like, my mum genuinely has no idea what's going on when someone tries to use name drop. You put your phone near them and it goes and slurps around. And we're like, oh, what a cool animation. She's like, what are you doing to my phone? Are you infecting with the virus or something? She doesn't understand what's going on. She doesn't want to understand what's going on. And it's just things that she doesn't care about. And finding things like, the text effects and messages, whatever you want to, shortcuts, it's beyond her needs, and they're getting more and more into power user territory with things like the what do you call it, camera button, right? The camera button where you sort of like press down a little bit and drag left and right. It's very, very complex usage these days, and shortcuts I expect are a failure take up. However, the fact that our stuff works in shortcuts is a happy side effect of the work we're doing. The reason we're doing it is we're exposing our data to Siri and Spotlight and Control Center and widgets and the lock screen and Apple Intelligence generally to index and work with freely. So even though 5% of folks might use shortcuts, when someone says to Siri, how many times have I met Bob in the pub or whatever, our app can be involved in that discussion somehow. It's put data in that big pile of information for Siri to pass through at some point, if it ever ships. Mark asks, should you be persistent to use app intents or you fetch from service? I think you can fetch it just fine. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing it because if someone asks Siri a question, they wouldn't want a slow response. It'd be quite annoying. And so I suspect if you can cache it, I'd recommend it. But I wouldn't necessarily want to see it, going slowly. But it can do, because again, they don't want to freeze up Siri. That would obviously Apple's baby, as it were. Are there any use cases I think adding shortcuts currently missing? Honestly, we'll get to it towards the end if we have time. I hope we do. The really new stuff, the cutting edge app intent stuff, it's completely hosed at this point. Like almost none of it works. And Apple are saying things like, Apple's own DevRel people are saying, put this in place, and in the future it will. And that's cool. But if I can't see it now, I see it working, trust that it actually does what I think it's going to do, I'm not going to ship it and hope for the best in the future. I'm just not. I don't trust my code that much. I want to see it run, see it work, see it fail or show whatever correctly. And if I can't, I'm not going to ship it. It's that simple. And so there are lots of things currently missing, and Apple will add a bunch over the next 12 months, and then a bunch over the next 12 months, and so forth. And we'll see how it goes. Priyank, the app scans for our shortcuts provider. This thing here, it looks for that directly. That exact thing. It picks it up automatically. Yeah, some folks, Anton, are extremely heavy shortcuts power users. Who was it? I don't think it's Matt Castaneda. Someone made maybe it was Charlie Chapman. Someone made no, it was Federico made a shortcut for adding device frames to screenshots. So like it takes screenshot and then pulls it out, adds an iPhone frame over it and crop the edges and so forth to fit the iPhone and then puts it out to a file again in like one shortcut press. It's very, very complex. You can do things like conditions inside there based on results of data. It's probably a Turing complete language at this point in shortcuts. It's very, very powerful. Subankar asks, how should we structure our code to keep app intents maintainable? So from iOS 18 onwards, you can spin them out nicely into their own framework if you want to. And they'll communicate correctly across the frameworks if that is how you want to structure your code. Have a bunch of intents somewhere else. I think particularly when you have, say, widgets and live activities and control center buttons or lock screen buttons, whatever you want to, as well as, your action button, your Apple Pencil Pro button, whatever. There are a whole bunch of ways you can trigger these things. And so farming that out into a separate framework would help, I think, I would say. But it depends how many you have, of course. Apple's advice of, everything your app does being an intent. Yeah, I'll believe when I see it. When I see other apps do that, everything your app does should be an intent. Okay. Like lots of things, fine, but everything, we'll see. It's interesting right now. There's a bit of a developer backlash about app intents. Who was it today? I forget his name. John Voorhees, I think it was saying he gets a sense from developers that they are less than keen to put data into what I think he called it a wood chipper. Just like throwing our data into Siri and shortcuts, whatever, and hoping for the best. Because he thinks some developers are worried about losing their identity a little bit. Like we're just basically a meat for the meat grinder, data for the data grinder, as opposed to a beautiful, unique, curated app over here. It's just another piece of data for Siri to go and munge up in somewhere else. And so there's a little bit of pushback about app intents right now. I'm not going to get too much into that. That's a you call to decide. I'm just saying what's out there right now. You don't want to do authentication at your intent level if possible, Subankar. That seems like it's going to go wrong. That seems like a bad idea. You'd want to have that stashed away already, pre-authenticated at that point. I don't think you want to do it at that point, I suspect. Aowen asks, I'm not even going to read that question. I whenever I see the word severance, I scroll by it. I've watched none of season 2 at all. I don't want any spoilers. I've seen nothing. I loved season 1, and I'm kind of waiting for season 2 to finish before I look at it. But there was some question about severance in there. I don't know. Apple do use it, by the way. They do use it a lot. Actually, so did Amazon. Amazon like intents a lot, by the way. Yeah, everyone likes severance. It's great. If you look at Amazon, on my phone I see Amazon and then search your orders and basket appear on the home screen locked up straight away. It's very, very quick. Okay, last question. I've got to go. I need to actually stretch my legs at least briefly between these breaks. Otherwise, I will get deep vein thrombosis. Anton asked about NS user activity. So it gets kind of murky there very quickly. The whole bunch of API, very new API, shipped in 18.2 and even new stuff in 18.4 around user activities. It's a very murky API. The problem is that user activity is how Apple bundles a whole range of things. Like handoff between your iPhone and your Mac is a user activity. And so you can now already associate app entities, which we'll cover in a second, with your user activities. To kind of, if you have this old style API in there, you can say, oh, by the way, here's my app entity as well, to kind of marry them both up. And the same if you have the old core Spotlight indexing stuff, you can attach entities there too. So they're basically giving you a pathway towards entities, no matter what approach you take. I cannot imagine NS user activity going away because it's so overloaded at this point. It does a ton of stuff behind the scenes. Like, so many major system services are powered by it now. I can't imagine it going to go away at this point. Instead, they'll link the two together like they've done already. So activity, by the way, connects this intent as well. Right, I've got to take a break. We're supposed to have a break. Yes, 10 minutes ago I was supposed to be a break. Ibiza, sorry. I'm going to take a break now. Like for 4 minutes. Go and climb the stairs a few times, stretch my legs a little bit, and I'll see you on the stream 2 in like 4 minutes flat, folks, okay? And if there's more questions then, we'll tackle them then. Okay? Yes. I'll take silence as a implicit yes for that one. Stream 2, post in the Slack channel in about 4 minutes, folks. See you then.